Hey guys, welcome to today's video on the Facebook ads scaling strategy, or meta ads scaling strategy, I should say. I've got a full doc on my other screen that I'll go through. But first, I'm all believer in transparency. Have a look at this. An absolutely terrible day for sales. And this happens, this is why I scale slow and steady. And why part of my scaling strategy I will show you. It's very important that I show you from experience why I do this slow and steady. I'll go into the ads manager in just a moment. You can see yesterday what a stark difference. Did 5,000. Now, what are the key differences from yesterday to today? Well, today in Australia, where these items are from, they've got a sale apparently. It's Tuesday, okay, and it's just entered into the new financial year. The reason that's important is end of financial year sales. People were buying with discounts, and then always when there's big discounts for a period of time, there's a massive drop. Okay, it's nothing to be alarmed by. You can see website visitors and that, but just people aren't in the buying mood. Tuesdays and that don't historically do well. If we have a look at the last 7 days, you can see that sales have been amazing, right? And that was when we got a lot of traffic, but I think that was bot traffic. But, you can see done really well, especially towards the end. Run some more campaigns via Facebook as well as email. And it did really well. If we have a look at the last 30 days, fantastic, right? And I think that's with probably about 7 grand AUD I'd spend. So I'm not going to complain, but then I wanted to show this, the important thing is to show this, right? This is terrible, right? Compared to the other days. Let's go into the ads manager and have a quick talk about that. Then we're going to go into the doc and I'll go into a test ad account and show you how I sort of do these things, my approach to scaling. And I want to be perfectly transparent. I'm not perfect at this. My approach to scaling is slow and steady. My numbers, I'm sure you've seen, some people do those numbers a day that I've done in the last 30 days. I run multiple businesses. I have a family. I prefer money in my pocket. My approach is a more slow, steady approach. So I'll be honest. If that approach doesn't work for you, this may not be the right type of video. But my experience has always been you never scale aggressively on Facebook, right? I see people doing these insane figures, and I actually wonder, after the cost of fulfillment, after the cost of taxes, after the cost of merchant fees and everything, are you actually running it profitably? I've done huge numbers, and on the back end, I was barely turning a profit because all the money was more going towards Facebook. Okay, so very important that I start the video with that. And let's get into the part that you want to learn more. And teach you about my scaling strategy that hopefully would be translatable to your business. All right, so I'm just in the ad account, and you can see, don't be fooled by this. It's actually the 1st of July, not the 30th of June to set up the ad account. Don't make the mistake I did. You can see here, I wanted to show you've seen in previous videos. Again, a pure example of it's very black and white. The lower the cost of purchase, the higher the ROAS. This one's a bit different because this is a remarketing campaign, so the average order value is higher. Generally, these three cold, you can see that the higher the cost of purchase, the lower the ROAS. Simple as that. And what I did, I've actually reduced it, is I made a LLA 4 to 6% scaling campaign, and it failed miserably. You can sort of see here, in theory, the 4% to 6% LLA, and I'll show you how you make those. As a single interest is crushing it, hence why I'm getting this. But when I duplicated it 3 times to hit 3 separate pockets in a campaign that I put as $50, and you'll see that in my strategy, it didn't do well at all. And there was a few reasons. One, I made a mistake. I didn't schedule it for midnight the next night. Always schedule them for the next day. Never do that. You'll spend and it just wastes money and then it looks terrible, okay? So I plan to restart this campaign, turn it off, but I wanted to show it as an example of that I make mistakes. It actually had pretty decent cost per add to cart for what it's worth, But the CPC just is definitely not profitable compared to something like that, right? We're talking nearly 2.4 times the amount of CPC, right? So you can also reverse diagnose scaling that the higher your CPC, the higher your cost per add to cart, and then the higher cost per purchase will always be, right? So if you want to look at it like that, and so if you see something that has spent $16 compared to $47 and has just much better, worse metrics, you turn it off, right? So I want to teach you part of scaling is being able to reverse engineer and say, well, look, if something is spent less and it already has worse metrics and it's a duplicate test, that's a failed test. Okay, now I will leave this on because I made a mistake that I try and leave it on for 3 days. But if I see this trend continue, I'll just turn it off and say it's a failed test. Okay, and then I might find another ad set and try and do the same. I do a methodical scaling strategy, and let's get into that now and talk about the doc and about how you do that. I'm going to go into a test ad account so that I can show you a bit about custom audiences and a few things and sort of campaign structure so you can replicate that yourself. My doc here, this is all just in the description. Get it? I could make a flow diagram, but this is just how it works for me. I have videos on optimization. You can go watch that there. Deep research, you can go watch that there as well on how to make and research quality ads. So between all of these, between optimizing ad sets and ads, and then how to determine how to make great ads, you should be off to a strong start. And now this is, in my eyes, the final main one that will help you with scaling, right? So I plan to make other Facebook videos, but this is sort of the 3 videos you need for Facebook, research, identification, branding, optimization, scaling. I'm always testing new things, so this is my current strategy. When I find new things working, I will update you. I don't plan to make a course or anything, so I just want to make it this way. I don't have the time, and I just prefer this. All right. So I've already said about optimizing ad sets. For each change I want to test in an ad set, I duplicate it. So if I'm before I'm scaling, I test if I can test the pockets. So I will test by duplicating that ad set, optimizing it, and then see if it continues to work. If it works after an optimization, and then I try and optimize it again, I duplicate again. So let's say I've optimized it. I know it's US, but then I know that I've tested men against women just by doing one change and seeing how it goes. Then I'll optimize again. Ideally, you want to try and make sure you narrow down at least one country, gender, age, are those. If you can sort of narrow that down and trim 20-30% is what I try and aim at, then that's a win. So, if you're targeting 5 countries, you narrow it down to 1, that's massive. If you can narrow it down to 1 gender, that's massive. If you can narrow it down from 25 to 65 to 25 to 54, that's 10-20%, and you're just trimming it, right? So each time you do this, duplicate, make the change, test 3 days, away you go. So at this point in the same campaign, you'll have done a number of tests. Okay, and of those tests, the ones that you see that are winners, if you're seeing consistent results from that audience and multiple audiences, this is if you're testing multiple winning audiences and ads, then you keep working on that basis and optimizing it as well. With the ads, you want to throw in new ads for your best audiences every 3 to 7 days as well. Depends what creative you're using, but there's things like AI, UGC. But let's talk about the scaling. The scaling essentially comes down to 2 things. It'll be you've identified winning audiences, and you've got your winning ads, and you've optimized them. Okay, so then you've trimmed a bit of the fat, so to speak. My scale I do incrementally. That's just how I operate. I do this. I always found that if I push budget today, I would just be losing money. Too high, too fast, all your profits disappear. And then what is the point of revenue aside from vanity metrics? I look at a lot of growth companies, especially if they're less than 6 months old, as more vanity metrics. It's extremely abnormal. Maybe in software it can make sense, but in e-commerce it's very unsustainable. So as I said, I duplicate the winning ad set, ideally the optimized one through age, country, gender, age, it should be, placement into a new campaign that is a CBO campaign. I set it to $50, and I try and put 3 exact duplicates in there, right? So I'm trying to hit 3 pockets of that audience that's optimized with the winning ads at $50 for 3 days. I live for 3 days. I spend $150. In theory, it should go well. And sort of go from there. If after 3 days it is working, I firstly make sure my remarketing budget is 20% of my total cold, because I always want to capture a lot of that remarketing before I further scale. And you just keep repeating that. 20% is the golden rule. At the same time, I'll start drilling down my remarketing audiences, not just VC 30 days, but add to cart, initiate checkout, as you'll be getting enough data to justify remarketing. So you'll probably start more with the add to cart, but initiate checkout is a very hit and miss. So maybe a bit too early there, but it really just depends. You're checking your pixel data, how many fires you have. Ideally, you want to look for a metric of, where did I put it? Of about at least 100 pixel fires, but I try and aim for 250. I wrote it in here somewhere. That should be then. I then increase the CBO with 3 ad sets to 20% more. So if that campaign's doing well, okay, after 3 days, I will increase it 20%. I don't double it. I find that doesn't work for me. 20%. So I'll get double the budget in theory at minimum over 10 days. Okay. Wait, no. 3 times 5, 15 days. I'm really tired today. So many times when you double the budget I've done, it just chews away at that, and your cost per purchase goes through the roof and your ROAS just drops. It's just not worth it. Your cost per click is crap. Just the whole thing is just a waste of money. So 20%, just tells Facebook, I want to spend some more, but I don't want to go nuts. My wallet isn't unlimited. And then after a week with that campaign, at the same time, I will keep increasing at 20%, but then I'll duplicate one of those ad sets, or because they should be all pretty much the same, well, they would be the same, into another CBO with 6 ad sets starting at $100. You're getting the idea here, right? So to scale for me, I scale through multiple pockets, 20% increases every 3 days if metrics are meeting your expectations, and instead I make multiple CBOs. Okay, the reason is that with more ad sets, in order for each of those ad sets to spend equally or properly in Facebook to optimize, you need to give it more budget, don't you? Right? So I wouldn't put another 6 in for a campaign that had 3 ad sets that might have $70 instead of $50. It's not enough, right? You need probably on average $15 per ad set as a starting point is sort of the basis, right? So if you think about 6 times 15 is 95. So that's why I just put, 100, and so you get my point, right? And so if I'm scaling further and I'm feeling good after a week, I'll make 12 ad sets and I'll put it at $200 and I'll keep doing the same. And I'll do that for the same audience and I'll make multiple campaigns doing so, right? You can only have 50 ad sets per CBO campaign, so you will hit a barrier. At that point, it's just increasing budget, okay? But you basically would want to go on that basis. I find that way you're hitting multiple pockets. You've got multiple CBOs that are all learning and optimizing all in real time, and you're managing your budget collectively, and you will see an increase in sales if you sort of follow this, and then each time focus on making sure your remarketing is 20% of your cold for that specific product. That's pretty much it. And if you've got 10 to 20 million people, you won't burn through that relatively quick unless you're spending tens of thousands like a day, but otherwise that will last you a while. And you'll obviously know, you'll just see your cost of purchase will continue to creep up and your ROAS will continue to drop. And that's why at the same time you have your testing campaign where you're testing new audiences and optimizing them and then duplicating them into a CBO and scaling them that way. At this time, you should be aggressive with turning your ad sets off. If you're spending a lot and they're not performing, turn them off. You've got so many duplicates, different pockets, or whatever, for whatever reason won't work. Just kill them, move on. Then you should be creating more creatives that are similar to the winners and duplicate them into your testing campaign. I always start in the testing campaign with your winning ones, see how it works for 3 days, duplicate it into your scaling campaigns, which is really easy. Duplicate, choose the campaign, all the ad sets, throw it in there, publish, away you go. And that's sort of how I do it, right? I always try and keep my tests there because, again, momentum in scaling, you want changes to be minimal, and that you want things in there, ideally, that you move into that campaign to be proven, tested, ready for scaling, okay? So that's pretty much the process that I sort of run now. I don't scale stupidly high, so I can't say I spend tens of thousands a day. So I don't know if this is the most robust strategy, but this is the one that I find is, from years of experience through ups and downs of multiple brands, Little Baby, Paws, Happy Bubs, for example, that like with Little Baby Paws, I was, I remember doing like 5K a day, and I was spending like 2K a day on ads, and it was between all the back end costs, I was not really making anything. It was really stressful. So I was scaling too aggressively, and this way is a way of scaling a bit more over the long term, optimizing, and then finding the pockets that are winners and sort of going like that. So at the end of you're consistently testing in your testing campaign and scaling into segmented campaigns geared purely to take advantage of the winning and just a CBO. So there's not really much to it. The reason you do a CBO is because you find the best pockets, but you want to also have some smarts where Facebook's like, well, this pocket's doing the best, I'll spend more here, rather than you having to watch it all, because between a lot of ad sets, it can get very monotonous and tedious, and you'll make mistakes, whereas the CBO just sort of helps buffer that, let the algorithm, let their machine learning do that heavy lifting for you. Now you can also start adding more audiences into your testing campaign. As I said, you can make 50. At this stage, you want to test VC LLA, add to cart LLA at minimum. You can add in initiate cart, add LLA, and obviously purchase. So you ideally want to have at least 100 event fires, preferably at least 250. I find is sort of a good number, right? That at this stage, right? So that's why you start with VC. At this point, if you're scaling, you'll easily have these, and you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You do it in 5 as separate LLAs. You put it in a testing campaign with the optimized demographics that you already have in your winning ad or ads. And you see which is performing best. What I normally do is, as I said, I just make a thing LLA VC 1%, LLA VC 2%. And I'll show you that in just a moment, sort of how I would structure that. On Shopify, this is if you're using Shopify, on the back end, when you're looking at the products on the back end, and you go to your products, you can see in the URL, it'll have like some / whatever. Copy that and put it in there. It's a lot more reliable than the URL. The URL can change, for SEO purpose and all that, but that number string on the back end will never change because that's static for that product to identify it. And you can connect that with the pixel. So it's just basically, it's accurate data. And if you look at your pixel, you'll see that a lot of them reference that. It's just a unique identifier that never changes, as opposed to your URL. If you're doing SEO and stuff, your meta title, meta description, meta URL, you might change that. And so it can become a bit of an unreliable stat, whereas the number is just more reliable because you never change it. The only way to change it is you delete the whole product and you have to make it, and then a new one will be set, but that's set for the life duration of when that product's around. When you make them, make sure, as I said, you do the product ID. If any of them work, naturally onto the right path. I don't know why I put think. I must have been thinking while I was... I then will do the exact same as above. I try and optimize it if I can further, but it should be already optimized. And then I will duplicate it into another CBO by itself as a starting point. $50 times 3. If it keeps working, I do $100 times 6. And I just sort of keep doing it that way. So it's very repeatable, because really the only difference is that it's a different audience, different pocket, different ad. But in terms of the campaign structure, you just do it all the same, right? There's no reason to not. Then, if, as I said, the key difference with LLAs is if, let's say, 2% is working, then I'll go 0 to 2%. So in the beginning, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you might find that 1% is doing well. So if 1% is doing well, I will try and go 0 to 2. That's just sort of how they put it as 1. It's sort of like 0. It's a bit confusing, but once you do it, it'll go 0 to 2. And let's say if you're finding 2's doing well, I'll do 1 to 3. So I try and keep that number more in the middle, and as expanded, because believe it or not, while it logically should be the exact same people, it's treated differently. I don't know how to explain it. I haven't looked into it. I'm not smart enough. But I find that works well. Like I found like a 4 to 6% purchase LLA that's working really, really well. If you can get a purchase LLA purring for you, then you're on the right path, because that's purchases. It's an LLA, so it's using season data for purchases. It is the gold mine, right? And who would have pictured that a 4 to 6% would do so well, right? So all I did was I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I found that 4 was doing well. I did 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But then I'm like, all right, well, I'll try. I ended up trying. What did I try? 2 to 4%, and then 3 to 5%, and then 4 to 6%. I tried multiple and all just different duplicates, and really easy to do. Because once you have the custom audience set up, you just reference that custom audience, say I want to make an LLA, and you just change this dial. Give it a couple hours for it to optimize, and then throw it in a new ad set, test it. And then go from there. And as I said, if 4 to 6%, 4 to 8, 4 to 10, believe it or not, it might work. 0 to 4. Just think of a number of combinations that sort of surround it with that number as sort of the center point. Because you want to maximize that. And then at some point, if your thing's doing really, really well, it's 0 to 10, 0 to 5, 6 to 10. Try a number of those. But firstly, what I try and do is I try and stick to what sort of works. And that's sort of the strategy that works for me. Because originally, it was a 1% LLA, and that started failing, and I tried others, and that's where I found 4, and I was like 4 to 6. And then in Australia, I think that's like a 1.2 million people audience for purchases that are highly engaged in my product. And as you could see, I was getting like a $6 cost per purchase, and I'm like, boom, easy as pie. And it only take a few minutes, right? So I'm going to go into the ads manager in just a moment. Don't worry. By making new campaigns and scaling 20% every day, if the metrics are good, you are safe, you won't overspend, you factor in all risks in your ads inside and out. Okay, very important that I always say that, because you are going to have bumps in the road. Remember, scaling is more than sales. It's fulfillment, team building, processes, unexpected issues. So I do it this way, so I give myself time to optimize and manage my business while incrementally scaling it in a logical, safe, secure, profitable manner. That's the approach I do. I'm not here to provide vanity metrics. I'm not here to show that I'm the world's best digital marketer. I'm not. This is my approach that I sort of do. Let's go into the ads manager now, and I'll just show you more the custom audience, sort of that type of thing more, because I've shown you, the ads manager will show you the custom audiences and sort of how you would do that. It's very, very easy. Once you know how, it's just absolute copy paste. So let's go into it now. All right. So I'm just in my test ad account. You've all seen this many times, and just whatever. All you really need to do here is you can go up from here and go audiences, or click audiences here. Honestly, these are the main ones you'll really use, right? Like you don't use most of the bloat here for different businesses, right? But for e-commerce, we don't need it. You can see here I've made a number of custom audiences. You'll see that their size is pending. That basically means there's nothing there, because I don't have any pixel data. You'll see that they'll read, and you should normally sort of see a bit more data once you have some good data. Okay, so you can see I've, for ages ago or something, I was doing some stuff with course. I don't remember what the thought was there, but many years ago. So let's say I'm going to make a custom audience. You go website. Again, most of this you don't use. You can use customer list if you export your email list, which I strongly recommend you do as well. Those are highly engaged quality leads that you can make LLAs from. So make sure you look at that as well. I didn't include that, but actually you should do that. I forgot about that. Export your entire email list, map the columns. It doesn't take long. Let it match. It'll take a lot longer because it's a lot more manual data entry for Facebook, that is. But leave it, and then you can make another amazing LLAs. It's pretty much the equivalent of purchase LLAs, but a sort of different one. So it works really, really well. So you choose your pixel. You choose, as I said, let's say I'm choosing view content. I don't have all the pixel files because it's not an e-commerce pixel optimized. You want to choose retention. Again, you choose that. You can go up to 130 days. Look, I'll be honest. You don't really go past 30 days. I used to do 180 days, sort of taught as dropship, but it doesn't really work now. I just don't find it works. And you can go URL parameter, right? So I go parameter content ID is what it is. And then it's that You don't need to have the forward slash because the forward slash is not helpful because every product has that. You just put in the unique number and the pixel will pick that up and match it to, okay, great, this is a unique number. It's just some random string of numbers. And it'll match. As I said, you can use URL, but that's prone to change. And the others are just not really valuable. So I just go content ID, copy it, paste it, boom, away I go. Give it an audience name. I always call it what's in there. So like product 1, VC, 30 days, because you can't see it. I wish, like, you you see how it's not going to probably let me make it, but see how I did make it. I wish you could see, and because when you have everyone that has run a lot of ads, it will always have the same complaint. When you have heaps of custom audiences, it's a pain to filter through them. These filters are a shit house. If you can have a naming convention, you need to make a naming convention yourself and be consistent with it. Hence why you can see in the past CA, which stands for custom audience, the product, the niche, the product, the look back, and the event fire, right? And you want something like that, right? And I did that however long ago, I don't remember. But anyway, from here, now probably won't let me do it, but what you would normally do is you create lookalike, and you can see here, you then choose the audience. If you want to choose a different one, you go nuts, right? You get my point. Create lookalike. You choose your country. You still have to choose your country, right? So let's choose that. I choose 5. I don't know why it has 6. It just seems really odd. It has up to 10, and you would think that they would give 10 as an option. It's just bizarre. But anyway, so you can see here. 0 to 1 is classified as 1. But if I then go 1 and then it does that, it classifies it as 2% when it's 0 to 2. It's a bit weird. But there's a few parts that are a bit weird with this, right? But you can see the audience size. And then you click create. I won't be able to because it's going to fail because I don't have any data. But you get my point there. That's how you make it. And if when I made the 4 to 6%, again, all I did was I moved one. You have to move the right dial first and then that one. And then boom, I've got a 5.6 million audience. If I do it, it's 2.8. It's literally double. So you would think that it should be the exact same result, but it's different. It's different. I don't know why, as I said, but that's just my experience. And then as I said, if that was doing well, 4 to 8, 8 to 10, give it some time. You give it the same time frame while you think the audience is larger. Remember, if you look at this is still below 20 million. You're doing broad interest targeting initially that's like 2 to 20 million, and you're spending, so it's no different here with an LLA. Okay, so that's pretty much it. And then you would put it into a CBO campaign. And again, making the CBO campaign, pretty easy stuff, right? You make the campaign, the 3 ad sets, all the exact same, $50 scheduled for the next midnight in your ad account time zone. In your ad account time zone is very important. And then follow this guide, repeat. Make sure you're always looking at remarketing, and then you're pretty much good to go. So that's pretty much my scaling strategy. As I said, I don't scale at present to insanely high figures, but I find that this is a logical approach. If you're a digital marketer doing it for clients or as a freelancer or an agency, this is highly justifiable to clients because clients don't like overspending. If you're running it yourself as well, you're not hurting your wallet too much as well. You're sort of factoring in all of that too, and you're keeping, again, ideally, because if you're keeping your cost per purchase as low as possible while incrementally telling Facebook. I've just never had the experience of that scaling is that I can double, triple a budget and it just magically work amazingly well. The best time would obviously be Black Friday, Cyber Monday when you're running sales, and that would be maybe the only real time that I could picture that somewhat working, but I just don't do it as a general rule of thumb. I just personally like to do it this way because, as I said, my videos, my content, I focus on other channels. I'm very big on YouTube, Google, shopping, SEO, affiliate marketing, referral marketing, influencer marketing. I do a lot of that. So this approach on Facebook just helps me to grow without going ballistic, right? So Anyway, I hope this has been helpful. If you did like today's video, be sure to like, share, subscribe. Comment down below if you have any questions. Other than that, thank you very much for your time. Have a lovely day. Take care and goodbye.